Hi everyone! I can't believe that the first month of summer is over. I wouldn't say that June was a very active and creative month for me. In the beginning of the month, I was a little bit sad because I realized that this year I again will be very limited in my holiday times, that I won't be able to travel abroad, and indeed it made me really sad. And also in June we had a really unusual hot weather here in Kiev. I think that it in Kiev we had a record of hot temperature. The last time so hot we had more than 100 years ago. And when you go outside for some business, when you go outside and when you return, you are out of commission for the rest of the day. It's so hot and it's so difficult to breathe outside because of the very dry and hot weather. So I wasn't very creative and I tried to select mostly comfortable pictures, coloring books where it's easy for me to select colors, where I can color something really quickly. But still, I made a couple of quite nice works which I really love. First of all, let me show you Fantasy Nouveau. Here I did a mermaid picture, which I planned to do in May, but I had to transfer it into my June plans. Here is my beautiful mermaid. When I do my mermaids, I try to select new colors for their hair, for their tails. I don't think that for now I did many mermaids with golden tails, so I'm glad that at least here I tried it. For this page I used a mix of pencils. First of all, I was surprised that even such pencils like Color Softs, which are quite demanding to the paper quality, they were not so bad for this page. When I just got this book, I was in love with pictures, but I was preoccupied because pictures are double-sided and I was afraid to start coloring in it. By now I discovered that even if paper isn't very thick, I do love the tools of the paper, and even cheap pencil brands like Sucolor, Arteza, Starjoy, they work well here. And such pencils like Color Softs, they also can be used here. Green-gray Color Softs helped me to do this background, this water. I think that I also used some Arteza pencils and a little bit of Sucolor pencils. I don't do a very complicated layering and shading here, so even budget pencils, they cover paper nicely without visible white spots, even without blender. So I think that I finally got used to this paper and that I finally will be able to color more. Because pictures, they are amazing, but the book is double-sided, it was bothering me. Probably the most challenging part for this page was color selection for the wings. It was my last element to color. I already did this dragon, which looks like the second frame. I already did golden hair and tail, so it was challenging to select colors of the wings. But I do love how I did them with many colors: lilac, blue, lavender, golden. They look a little bit transparent and very light. I think that for this mermaid they are quite good addition. So I am glad that another page in Herb Leonhard book I did it, and I did it relatively easy. Another good point in June was that I finally returned to Fairies in Dreamland. I do love books by Dennis Klett, but sometimes I find it challenging how to do the background. You know that sometimes watercolors, they create not very attractive stains on this paper. This paper absorbs quite quickly watercolor, water and pigment, so it's difficult to spread pigment. But I discovered that with paints like gouache, I don't have such problems, and it really helped me to color this page. It's very simple. Fantasy flowers, very cute, fairies surrounded by birds, so it was important to do interesting background. I selected several artisan colors. I think that in the end I used 5 colors starting from more deep and rich violet to lavender, then more muted gray violet, and going to the peach to the upper part, and they behaved really well here. I was able to create smooth gradient from dark to light color, and I do love the texture of these paints. It's possible to work on top of it with pencils. It's possible to spread them on the paper nicely without visible brush strokes. So for me it was like a saver, and now I definitely will be able to do more pages in Dennis Klet's book, which I liked but where I didn't have any idea how to do the background. I don't think that I'm capable to do such backgrounds with pencils, watercolor. They don't look nice here, but gouache paints, I think that it suits perfectly. For the rest of the page I used Sucolor pencils, which I also love on this paper. Of course, in June, in summer, I wanted to color flowers. And I also wanted to maintain my promise to start at least a couple of new coloring books each month. In June it wasn't very helpful because I do started 2 new books, but I got 4 new ones. So again, I have more untouched books than I had in the beginning of the month, but at least I did my first page here in this book by Creative Heaven. The artist is Ruth Sofer. I got this book as a present in the end of previous year, and I was a little bit intimidated by the size of the flowers. I do love how detailed they are, and I do love that they are really botanically correct, but they are really big. I was thinking that maybe one day I will use markers, I will use watercolors here, but then in the beginning of June I decided that summer is perfect time to start doing something in this book, and I decided to test here my budget sets. I wouldn't say that I'm ready to spend my polychromos for such a big pictures, for such a big flowers, but with Artisa, with Starjoy and Sucolor, I was perfectly capable to color a couple of pictures here. Let's start with passion fruit, passion flower. I always loved them. I always was mesmerized by the structure of the flowers, the central part, bigger and smaller petals, and variety of their colors. I even tried to grow them myself, but unfortunately it's not enough sun in my flat for them. But at least I managed to color it. And here I used a lot of pencils. For the background I used Star Joys because they have a very nice rich deep greens closer to black, and they created nice contrast to the flowers. On the leaves I started to test my small set of Castle Art Botanical pencils. Well, they were a little bit waxy, but still quite possible to use in this book. And for the central part I simply went through all my budget pencil set trying to find exact shades of color which I needed. So I combined Starjoy, I combined Artisa, I combined Sucolor pencils, and here is my final look of the flower. And even if it was a little bit long to do it because of the size of the flower, I really enjoyed it. I didn't have to struggle with the color choice. I simply selected a reference photo with a beautiful flower, and I tried to find pencils as close to the reference picture as possible. So the second page which I did here was with this beautiful night blooming cereus cactus. I always was interested in this plant. It's blooming not very often and only during night time. It has huge flowers, you can see it here, and during the night time these huge white flowers, they are really spectacular. Again, I tried to find colors according to what I saw at reference pictures for more colorful outer row of petals and almost white inner row of petals. To color white flowers, it's always challenging, and it's challenging to film them. I don't know if you can see all those shades of pastel yellow, pastel green, cream, which I tried to use for shading these flowers and between petals. But in real life, they look not flat but more three-dimensional, and even the background I did here with pencils, with Star Joy pencils. I was surprised myself, honestly. So I definitely will be using these pencils for my next pictures, and I will try to use also markers and watercolors. I am glad that I discovered that I do love pictures, but Ruth Sofer, she has couple of other similar books with big flowers and botanical details. I think that she has tropical and desert bloom books. So maybe if I will color in this one, I will think about purchasing the next books from this series. And speaking still about flowers, here I have my flower year. You probably know that a couple of years ago I colored here very actively. It was like my book of on the table, constantly on the table, and I did a couple of pages each month. But then I felt really overwhelmed with the same color combos, the same leaves, the same repeated flowers, and I decided to put it aside for some time. And I don't think that I had touched it for more than 6 months, maybe even a year. But finally I realized that I do miss this book and I want to return to Leila Beautiful Designs. In June I did one full spread. This one. My favorite medium in this book, it's Polychromos pencils because they have more natural colors of the greens. So it's 80% of polychromoses, but I also added some light greens from Prismacolors like ginger root or pale sage, and they helped me here to create more highlighted parts. Apart from this big spread, I also did a couple of small pictures, because if I want to finish this book one day, I need to finish miniatures also. I did this night primula, I believe, or evening primula. Strange thing is, I don't think that we have similar flowers, similar bushes here. I never saw these flowers in real life. And apart from this yellow flower, I also did tiny fuchsia picture just to finish the spread. Sorry, I will try to find it. No idea where it is. Here I have this tiny fuchsia flower. I tried to use the same or similar colors to the left page, which I did a couple of years ago, and this spread is now also finished. Now I just need to do one spread with poppies and one page with apples and plums, and then my book will be completed. I wanted to color more pictures with flowers, and I remembered about Kolorowanka book by Adi Shaf. I planned to color something with flowers, but somehow I ended with this page with pumpkins. I know that it's more suitable for them, fall season, but I was so in love with the scarecrow, with this row of pumpkins. So I decided that it will be my June page. I think that my main pleasure from this book is how Polychromos slide on this paper. It's perfect match, Polychromos and tooth of this paper. I worked on this paper with other brands like Arteza or Mitsubishi, but Polychromos, you can't compare them on this paper to any other brands. I enjoy every minute when I use them here. I decided to try doing this fantasy roof in contrast with all those yellow and orange colors on the pumpkin flowers. I tried to experiment with this ornament on the pumpkin leaves, and I definitely will use my own video as a reference for me, for myself, when I will need to do pumpkins in October or in November. I do love color combos which I invented for this row of pumpkins, for the orange, for the yellow green. I think that they look nice, and I definitely will try to remember these pencils for my next pictures. Now let's move to Martin Noble book, and that's my second book which I just started in June. I own it for almost a year. Yes, I think that I purchased it last summer. It's by Martin Noble and it's from the same series as I have goddesses and mermaids, so I was quite familiar with the quality of this book. Fun thing is that this book even wasn't in the adult coloring part. I think that it was described like a children's book, but I really love these designs. And finally, I did a page here. As my first project, I selected this garden wizard. I love that pictures, they are not very big, so you can color them relatively quickly. Yes, they are double-sided, but I know from my goddesses book and from mermaids that if I protect the rest of the book with a sturdy cardstock, because I tend to press quite hard with all my pencils, then I won't be having any problems. And tooth of the paper, it's quite good. I used here Arteza, I used Sue colors. For other pictures I used Star Joys, so mostly again budget pencils, and they behaved really well. I love how they cover paper, and designs, they are really good. I do love this idea of various magicians, wizards. Also we have ladies here, and many of them have beautiful frames. And at the same time, they are not overwhelmingly detailed, exactly what I need during these hot days, when it's a little bit difficult to concentrate on something really very challenging. I do love this page because it's fun. I think that here we have garden magic, and this magician, wizard, he tries to create garden gnomes, and in the beginning I was thinking about green color for his clothes, but then I realized that green here and green grass on the background, it will create a lot of problems for me. So my last choice was this brown color, but brown with addition of greens. I used several, what did I use? Arteza, so color, it doesn't matter, but the last pencil which I used was from Polychromos set, olive green yellowish, and it's a perfect pencil between green and brown. It helped me to add slightly greenish tint to the darker part of the folds on the fabric, and now I am totally happy. When I did face, hair and beard, I decided that I want to get rid of the black lines, that in such a way they look more realistic, more natural, so I definitely recommend to mask some of the black lines. I don't think that I need to mask all of them, but on the fabric and on the hair I tried to mask black lines slightly, and I think that now it looks better. I enjoyed this process so much that I immediately started the second page in totally different style. I think that here we have maybe Japanese with art and in totally different color palette. You know that I don't use red colors quite often, so it was pleasant exception. I decided that color combo of gold and red is quite interesting to start from. On the fabric behind, on the curtain behind, I tried to use slightly different shades of red. I'm not sure if it's visible, but I hope that at least on the brightest parts of the folds you can see that it's more magenta, and here it's more orange red or brown red, so slightly different shades of red. I'm glad that I selected quite muted colors for the clothes. In such way all our attention goes to the dragon inside of the magical ball. Again, I masked black lines using white paint, and I do love how hare and bird looks in such way. And for the skin, which I wanted to do slightly more yellowish than I do usual, because as I said, I believe that here we have Eastern wizard. I used a set of Black Widow for black skin. Here I selected Suede and Mocha pencils. From Black Widow Monarch I used Oyster as the main color, and they helped me to create such a skin tone which I really love. It was a very quick coloring. I think that I didn't make a break from the beginning to the end, and I'm glad that finally I started this book. I'm sure that slowly, maybe not very quickly, but I will be adding more pictures from this book because they are easy to do, they are inspiring, at least for me, they are easy to color, and I'm glad that I can practice more with my sets of Starjoy, Arteza and Sucolors. It's really nice to switch between my pencil sets, because sometimes it's boring to use again and again the same Prismacolor colors. It wasn't the only one fantasy design which I colored in June. I also did page here in Art Nouveau by Jade Summer. Comparing to this book, I hate this paper much more. This book is double-sided, this one is one-sided, but still it's much easier to color here. Just like with my other Jade Summer completed works, for my Isis and Sacred Snake, I did background using alcohol-based markers, and I put a light color on the sand, on the pyramids, and then on the details I used Sucolor pencils, I used Arteza. When I do Egyptian designs, sorry guys, it's so hot that it's difficult to think, really, honestly. Well, so I always try to stay in limited color palette. All those blue, turquoise colors, of course, all earth colors like ochre, pastel yellow, yellow, brown colors, everything which I need to do to color gold, and addition of red and orange probably. So palette is limited. Many of these colors I used already on the background. When I selected colors for the main images, I simply tried to find slightly different shades, different shade of red, different shade of blue comparing to the background, and I think that she stands really well against the background. The most challenging was how to color the snake. I didn't want to do completely black snake. I was afraid to do a totally black object in the very center of page with dark background. So in the end, going through all my pencil sets, I found these very dark greens from Starjoy. I used them together with black. So dark greens with black helped me to color the main part of the snake. and couple of artisan pencils in ochre, brown and olive green helped me to color the inner part of the snake. Even if it wasn't very pleasant to work on this paper, I am quite happy with the final look of this page. I always felt that design maybe it's a little bit overwhelming, and without this frame, these strange tails of the other snakes, it would be more easy to concentrate attention to the eyes, to the snake, but still I think that I managed to color in such a way that we recognize eyes as a focal point and everything else is just an addition and they don't distract attention from the main part. Now let's move to Teresa Goodrich. Of course I colored in Teresa Goodrich books in June. In the beginning of June, I still was thinking about spring and I decided to do my last project in spring scenes for this year and then to put this book aside until the next spring. This time I selected this page which reminds me about Dutch Park Keukenhof. Sorry guys, again I lost my bookmark, but here is my finished page. I colored already so many buildings in Teresa Goodrich books that it's challenging to find a new color combo for the new building. This time I added some more bricks on the walls. I tried to use more reds, especially reddish brown colors for the roof to create nice contrast to all the greens around, and my main struggle as usual is with trees. I don't know why, but my trees in Teresa Goodrich books, they always look flat, and I constantly try to improve them, to add some darker color for shadows, some lighter color for highlighted areas of the leaves. Now I think that they look slightly better, especially when I added more flowers to the bigger tree. It looks not so bad. Well, another strange decision was to try to do this small channel in the central part. I think that it was supposed to be another part of the grass in the park, but I decided that I want to try to do water. So I used a little bit of blue and of course I used a lot of brown and greens because all the trees, all the bushes around, they are reflecting in the surface of the water. It's far from perfect, but at least I tried to do it and it was interesting. I am quite happy with my flowers, mostly because I love to color flowers in Teresa Goodrich books and they are very colorful on the foreground, so it was nice addition to the page, and of course building is very elegant. Next I did a very small and quick project in country gardens. I did this bicycle. It's small but still it required some time to finish because I wanted to do realistic shadows on the steel, on the rubber tires. Well, rubber tires, yes, probably. On the basket and on the flowers, so I hope that now it looks a little bit more three-dimensional when I added shadow beneath the bicycle and some ground, some sand probably where it's standing. So it was quick, but I really enjoyed it. It's definitely time to use country gardens as my main book for June, for July, for August, because it has so many beautiful landscapes with flowers. And the third book which I used in June was Country Charm, and again I did building, and I again experimented with building colors. Here I am quite proud of my leaves. Finally they look like leaves with all those shadows, highlights. They don't look flat, so this part I'm really proud of. I decided that I want to experiment with this reddish roof, You can recognize henna and Tuscan red from Prismacolor set. Everything is made with Prismacolors with a lot of Posca on the last step to emphasize all those flowers, to add tiny details. Again, I mostly selected it because I wanted to do these flowers, to have some nice time doing all those bouquets, flowers, and I enjoy this process. The only thing I don't like it's this area behind the house. First I did it with blue, I didn't like it and I covered it on top of blue with greens. It looks slightly better but still not very perfect. All other details I do love. I love that we have door and frames slightly brighter comparing to the roof color. It helped to attract attention to the central part of the page and all those beautiful flowers in front of the building. When I felt a little bit tired, I tried to do smaller projects like this one. It's a book by Anastasia Koldereva, When Dragon Dreams. And I did it because of these very interesting plants. They are lithops or living stones. They have very interesting shapes. They are, in real life, they are in various colors. They have beautiful flowers, very unusual shape and very unusual life circle. So I always was interested in them. And also because of this newborn dragon, I decided that I love this picture and that's why I colored it. So mostly Prismacolors with, of course, a lot of Posca pens to mask some of the black lines. Next I have here books by Maria Trolle. Let's start from the Skimming Demons. The Nightfall in English. And here I have hedgehogs. I just need to find them. Here. This picture, it has a long story. 3 years ago on this page I started to test a budget set of watercolor pencils. I did this flower in pink and magenta color, the leaf behind, and I started to apply water to the background, trying how these pencils dissolve, and then I quit this page. I wasn't interested in finishing it. This time I decided that maybe I want to correct it and to color it. So first I tried to remove all the pigment from the water-soluble pencil first with eraser, and then I masked some of the black lines with paint, and over it I colored with Prismacolors. Now I think that it's not a bad result, especially I'm glad that I managed to change the color of this flower. You can say that in the beginning it was pink and magenta. I do love these big flowers and these tiny ones also. I know that probably I had to spend more time on the background. Now I have very simplified background, just a light layer of water-soluble pencils, but as usual for the designs of Maria Trolle I have very limited patience, so when I did the main image I decided that I don't want to do something complicated for the background. But hedgehogs, they are adorable. I love that they have their individual berries to have this lunch and that they are surrounded by flowers. So I'm glad that I changed this page and that I finished it. And the second book is the Twilight Garden, where I did picture which I call Everything is Pink. I got a request to make page with a lot of pink flowers, and indeed here we have a lot of pinks. Pink is even on the background. I don't know if it's visible on the screen, but various pink flowers like this big one, smaller ones, then bluebells, they have different shades of pinks more peach pink, clear pink, then more lavender pinks, and in the end I decided to add for the contrast some violet and blue flowers. I also tried to slightly change the shape of the bird, and I don't think that I managed to improve it a little bit. I hope that with this similar colors on the feathers and on the background, my bird isn't very lost against the bright background. I do love this magical key and the shining, this light halo around it. I think that it's a good part. And to create some interesting touches, I also added a little bit of white circles on the background. And finally, the last book I want to show you, it's A Romantic Country by Aries. I am surprised myself that for 3 years I was complaining about style of this book, about paper in this book, that I can't color in it. And then I started to color here with Prismacolors, and step by step I got used to the style, I got to the paper, and now I really enjoyed pictures here. I even purchased the next book from the same series. So in June I spent some time on this spread. I realized that I can create something nice from this tiny project. They require a very short amount of time to do such a small picture. They are very cute with various cats and dogs. You can learn even something new because I wasn't aware about Somali cat, so it was interesting to read about this variety of cats. I try to stay in a limited amount of colors, at least for the picture frames. I use the same pencils for some of the background elements, and I hope that when I will do all the miniatures I will add some wallpaper ornament very lightly on the background, and in such a way I will have this painting gallery. But in June I also did one full-size project here. Honestly, I wanted to do 2 pages, but then I told myself that this vegetable garden is more for August, for July. We have already the harvest time here, so I concentrated on the left side. I wanted to try to do this blue building, so it was my first step on this coloring, and because of the blue colors on the building, I decided that for the sky, to have at least some difference in color, I will also use pink and lavender, so we have this light evening time, early evening time, I think. At least I imagine that maybe girl, she's returning home, and it's beginning of the dusk time. Again, the most challenging part was how to do trees. Trees in Aries books, they are very simplified without many details. So to do leaves, to add some volume to the upper part of the tree, it's challenging, and I struggled a lot. I struggled so much with these 2 trees that for the last one, which is closest to us, I decided to add these huge fantasy flowers. I didn't want it to be realistic. I deliberately made it with this tremendous big pink flowers, and I think that such a bright element here, it helped to make the background with so many green colors more interesting to look at. For myself, I also added flowers here along the road, here behind the fence and near the house. I added them all from my imagination, and I deliberately used this red for the cart because I wanted to attract attention from them to the central part here and not to lose girl and her horse. I think that now I totally got used how Prismacolors behave on this paper. Yes, After a couple of layers they became really waxy and they refuse to layer more than a couple of layers. But with my style of coloring, it's enough for me to be able to apply a couple of layers. They cover paper not bad, and I am glad that I finished another page. I already decided which pages will be my next, and of course I will try to use part 2 also. Well, that was all about my June, and I hope that in July we will have slightly more tolerable weather, even if the forecast again tells us that we will have very hot times. But I hope that still in July I will do some nice works. Of course, I plan to color more flowers, and I want to pay more attention to the books of Selina Phoenix. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to color in Australian animals, to color in her mermaids, so probably in July I will try to use several of her books. Thank you for watching, thank you for all your kind comments. I hope that you have a wonderful summer, and I will see you very soon in my next videos.